Most men don't realize this. The most unforgettable sexual experiences a woman ever has aren't the ones with the most athletic performance or the most elaborate moves. They're the ones where she felt something real, not just arousal, but depth, not just desire, but meaning. And the root of that is presence. When I say presence, I don't mean just being physically in the room with her. I'm talking about being mentally, emotionally, energetically present, like the world has stopped. All that exists is her, you, and the space between you. The man who can anchor himself fully in the moment, without distraction, without performance anxiety, without the need to impress, is the man who scares her soul, not just her body. Presence is rare. Most men are distracted by their own thoughts, their own ego, by porn-conditioned expectations, by the need to perform or prove something. They're not feeling her. They're managing themselves. But she feels that. She knows when you're not really with her. And that disconnect kills the intimacy, no matter how good the sex is technically. Here's the truth. Women crave presence the same way they crave safety and arousal. In fact, those three are linked. A present man makes her feel seen. A present man makes her feel secure. And when she feels seen and secure, that's when she opens up in a way most men never get to witness. That's when she lets go. That's when she surrenders. Not because she has to, but because you've created an emotional container that allows her to fully feel, fully trust, fully release. When you touch her with intention. Not just touching to turn her on, but touching to feel her. Slow down. Don't rush through her body like it's a checklist. Study her with your hands, your eyes, your breath. Let her feel that you're not just trying to get somewhere. You're already in the moment. With her. And only her. Your energy, your breath, your eye contact. Those are your weapons. You hold her gaze not like a predator, but like a man who knows what he's capable of. You breathe slowly, deeply, grounding her into the moment through your own calm. You speak only when it enhances the moment. Whispers, soft commands, or pure silence that speaks louder than words. You listen to her body. Every sigh, every shift, every moan. It's feedback. It's communication. Most men ignore it. But the unforgettable ones, they use it to compose a symphony. Here's something deeper. When you're fully present with a woman during intimacy, you actually give her permission to be fully present with herself. That's powerful, because for many women, their own body is unfamiliar territory. It's been judged, rejected, sexualized, but not respected. When you are present, when you make space for her experience, you allow her to come home to herself through you, is what makes the moment unforgettable. That is what makes you unforgettable. So if you want to fuss-K her like she'll never forget, don't start with tricks. Start with your playlist or your positions. Start with your presence. Be the man who makes her feel like time stopped. Be the man whose silence says more than another man's loudest moans. Be the one who, long after the moment is over, still lingers in her chest. Not because of what you did to her body, but because of what your presence awakened in her. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. Make sure what she remembers is you. If presence is the foundation, then what comes next is even more subtle, more elusive. It's the part that separates the ones she forgets from the ones she never gets over. And that part is in her mind. You see, most men try to impress a woman with what they do to her body. The ones she truly remembers, long after the sheets have cooled, are the ones who knew how to arouse her thoughts before they ever laid a hand on her skin. Because here's the truth, a woman's deepest arousal doesn't begin between her legs. It begins between her ears. Before you ever touch her, you need to enter her mind. That's where the game is played. That's where desire is built, layer by layer. And it's not about manipulation. It's not about tricks. It's about understanding that for a woman to surrender her body, she has to feel safe, intrigued, and psychologically activated. She has to feel wanted, not just in a physical sense, but in a way that makes her feel chosen, seen, singled out. Like you're not just after sex, you're after her. Mental arousal is like lighting a fuse that slowly wins its way to the explosion. It's in the way you talk to her during the day, the tone of your voice, the words you choose, the pauses you allow to hang just a second too long, the confidence in your eyes when you say something that makes her think, did he really just say that? That tension, emotional, intellectual, even philosophical, is the foreplay she can't resist. And the real secret, it's the contrast. Because while most men are predictable, saying what they think she wants to hear, following a tired script, you speak in a way that makes her mind stop and lean in. You're calm but unpredictable. Honest, but never revealing too much too soon. You drop hints, not just about what you want to do to her, but how you see her. You build a dynamic, not just a moment. You make her curious. Curious about what you're thinking, about what you'll say next, about what it would feel like to finally be touched by a man who can already touch her with words. That's what makes the anticipation unbearable. That's what makes the real moment feel like a damn release. Because you've already seduced her mind. Her body is just catching up. And here's where it gets deeper. Because the male who can psychologically engage a woman without rushing to the physical, who can build slow, smoldering desire across hours, even days, he becomes more than just a lover. He becomes a fantasy, a living one. He becomes embedded in the spaces between her thoughts. He shows her she can feel this much without being naked. And that idea alone makes her crave what's next. Truth is, women don't remember the most talented man in bed. They remember the one who made them feel the most. And mental stimulation is emotional stimulation. When you turn her on in the mind, you turn her on everywhere else. The anticipation becomes a loop she replays in her head. The tension becomes emotional gravity. And by the time you finally touch her, it's not just physical. It's psychological, spiritual, even addictive. So while the world teaches men to chase her body, I'll tell you this: chase her mind first. Learn her thoughts. Shape the silence between your words. Make her ache without ever touching her. That's not game, it's mastery. Because any man can give her a moment. But the one who enters her mind, he lives there, rent-free, forever. Once you've established your presence and claimed space in her mind, what comes next is the energy that truly separates the unforgettable from the forgettable: controlled dominance. Now, I want you to pay close attention to those two words, controlled and dominance. Most men misunderstand this dynamic because they confuse aggression with power or submission with weakness. But the truth is, women don't crave brutality. They crave mastery. They crave a man who knows his strength but doesn't need to prove it. A man who leads, not with noise but with certainty. Controlled dominance is about command without force. It's not about overpowering her. It's about guiding the experience with confidence, with purpose, with intensity that doesn't need to scream to be felt. It's the way you hold her body. Not like it's something to conquer, but something you already own. It's the way your hands explore her with a kind of masculine intention that says, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know exactly what you need. You see, there's a primal layer to attraction that most men never access because they're too afraid to lean into their darker edge. They're scared of appearing too rough, too intense, too much. But what most men don't realize is that many women are silently begging to be met at that edge. By a man who knows how to hold it with care. A man who can walk the line between tenderness and savagery, between control and chaos, between gentle and dominant. This contrast is where unforgettable sexual connection lies. You don't just move her body, you read it like a language. You dominate, but you listen. You lead, you adapt. You push her limits, but you never cross them. That's what makes you different. That's what makes her trust you, with parts of herself she doesn't show to just anyone. She trusts you not because you're soft, because you're strong enough to be soft when it matters most. And here's something deeper to sit with dominance. In its highest form, isn't about what you do to her. It's about how you affect her. It's psychological. It's emotional. It's the way your voice lowers an octave, and suddenly she's not just aroused. She's surrendered. It's the way you hold her face while taking her from behind, hard yet connected, fierce yet intimate. She doesn't just feel taken. She feels chosen. She feels seen. And she feels completely safe to unravel. Most men don't create that space. They either try to dominate from ego or hesitate out of fear. When you find that sweet spot, where your masculine energy is rooted in calm authority, not insecurity, that's when she starts to crave you in ways she doesn't even understand. You become the storm she didn't know she needed. You become the man who breaks her patterns, not by trying too hard, but by being exactly what she thought didn't exist anymore. Her feel your control, not as pressure, but as presence. Let your hands speak dominance and your silence echo confidence. Let your movements say, I know your body better than you do right now. Because when she feels that, she doesn't just surrender her body. She submits her memory. She'll never forget the man who made her feel completely undone, but never unsafe. In the end, the deepest dominance isn't physical. It's psychological. The kind of control that never needs to shout, just a look, a breath, a grip, a whisper. Because the man who owns himself fully is the only one who can truly own her. So you've mastered presence. You've entered her mind and stirred her imagination. You've unleashed your controlled dominance and taken her to the edge. What truly separates a good sexual encounter from one that haunts her memory is what happens after. Because here's the truth. Orgasm is temporary. The feeling you leave her with, that's what echoes. Most men are too focused on performance. They chase the climax like it's the goal. They treat sex like a scene from a movie. Build up, action, ending, and it's done. But a woman doesn't just remember the way you made her body respond. She remembers how you made her feel, the emotional residue of your presence, the afterglow that lingers, not just in her skin, but in her psyche. When a woman says, "I can't forget him," she's not talking about technique. She's talking about emotional imprint. That moment when she felt so seen, so open, so safe in her surrender that it shook something deep inside her. She's talking about the silence after, the way you held her, or maybe didn't, the way you looked at her, as if you just saw parts of her no one else ever bothered to discover. She's talking about the feeling of being understood, not just touched. That's the moment that becomes unforgettable. And this is where many men get it wrong. They think dominance is all about control during the act. The greatest emotional dominance is how you handle her vulnerability afterward. It's the way you don't just disappear into your ego or roll over like it meant nothing. It's how you stay present, how you let her exist in the softness that follows the intensity. That's when the connection becomes deeper than skin. That's when the bond becomes emotional, even if the moment itself was casual. Because you didn't just take from her. You gave her something she didn't even know she needed. It could be the way you kiss her shoulder in silence, the way you breathe with her in rhythm, or the simple, grounding power of your hand resting calmly on her chest. No rush, no exit, just space. That space is where the memory blooms, and even days or weeks later she'll feel it, not just in her body, but in her emotions, her dreams, her thoughts. She won't know why she's still thinking about you, but it's because you didn't just FHK her body. You shook something in her. You anchored something inside her. That's where unforgettable lives. This is the depth most men will never reach, because it requires more than physicality. It requires emotional awareness. You have to be bold enough to go deeper, strong enough to sit in silence, and present enough to let the experience mean something. Not in a needy way, not in a romantic fantasy, but in a grounded, masculine, emotionally intelligent way. You become the rare man who gives her both intensity and intimacy. Not one or the other, but both. And that is the man who leaves a legacy inside her. So don't chase just the climax. Create the moment that lingers. Don't just touch her body, haunt her soul. Because in the end, what she remembers isn't how you made her scream. It's how you made her feel when the noise was gone.